So let's work on objectives. Objectives are going to be stored inside our game state. So if you go into your game BP folder, and in level 1, we have our game state right here, which I explained in an earlier episode. You can hit open full blueprint editor in case this does not come up. And the first thing we're going to do is create a struct for our objectives. So let's go back into content, blueprints, structs, and let's right click, blueprints, structure, and we will call this S objective data. So each objective is going to have some data, such as a name, a title, whether it's completed or not, and I believe those are the only 3 we are going to have. So let's make those. So first we want to have an ID name, so do ID name. Oh, and that's going to be of type name. We're going to have a title, so we'll call this objective title, and this will be text. And we need objective completed, and this will be a Boolean. Alright, so let's go back into our game state, and let's create an array of the struct objective data. So make a new variable, and we'll call this, let's just call it objectives, and it's of type S objective data, and we want to make it an array. And here you can add as many objectives as you like, and you want to keep them in the same order as you want them to work. So for this first one, we can be telling the player to pick up a battery. So the ID name, so we can access it, can be pick up battery. And then the title is what's going to actually be displayed on the screen. So we could just make that pick up a battery, or maybe find battery, doesn't matter. And objective completed, we want to leave it to false for all of them by default. After that, the next objective can be use battery, and the title can just be use the battery. And lastly, we'll have one that'll say investigate noise. And the title will be investigate the noise, not the nose. Alright, so now we have our 3 objectives to beat this game, and we need a way to display this title here so that we can actually know what our objective is. So we'll need to do that with a widget. So if we go over to UMG, we can create a new widget blueprint, and we'll call this W objectives. And I'm just going to make something really quick. I'm just going to drag in a text. I'm going to anchor it. Yeah, top left is fine. Just put objective title goes here. Let's wrap it with a size box. So wrap with size box, and this will put it inside a size box. And this way we can decide how wide it is. So let's say something like 600, and y can be like 150, just for safety. And I'm gonna just put it, oops, something like here. And the reason I put it in a size box is so we can wrap the text. So if the text gets too long, this is where the objective text goes. We want to be able to wrap it so it doesn't just start filling up the entire screen. So if we scroll down and select auto wrap text, it'll automatically detect that. I'm also just going to make it our font here. Maybe size 20 is fine. Maybe give it a shadow, just so we can see it a bit better. And that's good enough. So let's make the text a variable, and we'll call it objective text, so we can alter it later. And in the graph, we will make a custom event called update objective text. And we will just get the objective text, set text, and the in-text can be part of this as an input right here. And we'll just, yeah, in-text is fine. All right, so let's add this to our main HUD, and I'm actually going to get rid of the default text. Well, I'll wait till we get it on the main HUD to make sure it looks good. So open our main HUD, objectives, we'll just pull this in. We want to anchor it to full. Since I just left the canvas panel in here, we're just going to anchor it to full and put all the offsets at 0, so it'll be in the same spot. And that looks good. And we can even see what it looks like in game, and that's good enough for me. So now I'm going to get rid of the default text so that nothing appears when we start playing. All right, so let's go back to our game state and let's create a function, and we're going to call this find current objective. And essentially what this is doing is when we want to start an objective, we have to find it using the ID name, and we want to say start this objective right here. So it's just we're gonna create a for loop from the objectives array. So for each loop with break, and we're just gonna break this array element here to get all the objective data, and we're just asking if the objective is completed. And if true, we want nothing to happen. But if it's false, that means that's the next objective in our list that we need to trigger. So if it's false, we will break this. And actually right before we break it, we want to set this array element as a local variable. So promote to local variable, we'll call this local objective. So it knows that this is the objective we want. Then we'll break it. And then once it's completed, we will call a return node with the local objective as an output. We'll just call this found objective. All right, and then we also can make this function pure because we don't need to run it through an execution node. All right, next we need a reference to our main HUD so that we know to update the objective text. So we're going to make another function called initialize, and it will have an input of the main HUD. We'll just call this main HUD, and let's promote that to a variable. Call this main HUD ref. And we need one more function that sets the objective. As this one only finds it, we need to actually set it. So we will create a function called set objective, and in here we will find the objective we are trying to set. And what we want to do is take the main HUD ref and update the text in wobjectives. So we will get wobjectives, and then we will call this custom event update objective text. And the text we want to display will come from the found objective. So we will split this, and we want to take the title and plug it into the in-text. After that, let's set the visibility of wobjectives to non-hit testable, self-only. Because in between objectives, when we don't want to display anything, we'll set it to hidden. So we want to make sure we set it back to visible once the objective is set. We also want to be able to complete objectives, so we will need another function for that. We'll call it complete objective. And we want to get the find current objective function because we want to set the current objective to completed. So we'll get this objectives variable, and we will call what's called a find item. And the item we want to find is the current objective. And then we just want to set the array element at this index. So we'll get a set array element at this index where the current objective is. And we can split the item. Actually, instead of splitting, to make it a bit more clear, we'll call a make, which is essentially the exact same thing. And we want to keep the name and title the same, so we will break it from the current objective and just take it from there. But this time we want to mark the objective completed to true. After that, we want to set the objective widget to hidden. So we'll get it, no, not the objectives. We want the main HUD ref, W objectives, which is our widget, not set, I'm sorry. W objectives, and we will set visibility to hidden. So compile and save, or we can actually also add a return node, compile and save, and then in set objective, let's add a return node. It's good practice to always have a return node at the end of your function, something that I am still not in the habit of for who knows why. But in our initialize function, we want to call set objective so that it's called right at the beginning. Now let's go to our character. So GamePP, level 1, L1 character, and in our begin play, we're in our event graph here, in our begin play, we want to go to our initialize function and add a pin to the sequence, cast to our game state, which is called L1 game state. For the object, it'll just be get game state. And then as L1 game state, we want to call the initialize from the game state. So initialize, and it asks for the main HUD, which we have a variable of in our player, so we will just take it from there. Go out and save. Great, so now when we hit play, our L1 character will cast to the game state and call the initialize function, which in the game state will call set objective, which will update the objective text in W objectives and set the visibility to true. So when we hit play, it should activate the first objective, which says find up a battery. I didn't even realize I typed that. We just want find a battery. And let's go ahead and hit play. And there it is. It says find a battery. That's great. Now if we go pick up a battery, we're back here, nothing will happen because we have no way to set the objective to be completed. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're going to do this with a blueprint interface. So let's go back to content, blueprints, interfaces. Let's create our third one. So right click, blueprints, and blueprint interface, and we'll call this BPI objective call. And we can open it up, and we're going to call this function complete objective call, and it's going to have one input of type objective ID, and this is where that ID name comes into play, so we know which objective to mark as completed. So make it of type name, and we actually need a second input, and this will be called set next objective immediately, and this is a Boolean, and this is essentially asking, as soon as this objective is completed, do we want to move to the next objective on the list, or is something else in the world going to activate it? So we can compile and save and close that. So the first time we want to complete an objective is when we pick up a battery, right here. But before we open up our battery, there's one thing we need to change. So let's go into our blueprints, actors, and inventory, pickup actors, pickup actors, and pickup actor master. And essentially what we need to do is right here where it says input action. Oh, seemed to have froze there for a second. We actually need this whole section to be a function because we need an output now. So just select everything that happens after input action, right click, and collapse to function. And we will call this pick up item because that's what we're doing. You can open it up. And we just need a return node with a Boolean called success. And we can copy and paste this return node to the 3 different spots where the path can go down. And let's see where it needs to be true. So it's been a while since we've been here, or at least since I've been here. So we add the item. If we successfully add the item, yes, so that is a success. This is still a success, and this is not a success. Now we can open the flashlight battery pickup actor. Go to open full blueprint editor, and this follows all of its parents functions, which we have in here. And we need to override the pickup item function, the one we just created. So go to functions, override, and pickup item. That's the one we just created. So now we have a function called pickup item, which calls the parent function pickup item with the outputs. So if we were to do nothing right now, not a single thing would work differently other than we just created an unnecessary step. But we need to know if this was successful or not in order to call this objective. So if this was successful, we want to get our game state and call, I'm already forgetting what we called it. Let me go check. Complete objective call, okay. Call complete objective call message. So off true. And we need to know the objective ID. So we need to enter this manually. So the best option here is to go to L1 game state and copy and paste. So ID name is pickup battery. So I'm going to copy and paste. And then we want to ask, do we want to set the next objective immediately? Or do we want to trigger it somewhere else in the world? And the next objective is use battery. So I do want to call this immediately. So as soon as you pick it up, your next objective is to use the battery. So I'm going to check that as yes. And now let's get this return node off here. And then if it's false, we want to make sure we still have a return node like that. So let's go back to L1 game state, and we need to actually add the interface to our game state. So if we go to class settings right here, implemented interface, we can add PPI objective call. So now, if we open up interfaces, this is now here, complete objective call. If we right click, we can hit implement function. So now every time complete objective call is called, for example, in the flashlight battery, it's called right here, this will be triggered. So we will get our find current objective function, and we just want to check if the objective ID is equal to our current objective ID name. So that it will only complete the objective if it's the objective we're currently on. Now if we want to set the next objective immediately, then we will call set objective, or sorry, not right off that true, but we want to call another if statement, and then call set objective off of true of that. All right, so let's test this out. So What should happen when we play is once we pick up the battery, assuming it successfully adds to our inventory, our complete objective call will be called for pickup battery, and that will complete our objective, which I just realized I forgot to actually add in here. So let's pull that out. If it does equal, and if this is true, we want to call complete objective. That would have been a funny thing to miss. And then it asks, do we want to set the next objective immediately? Which we do. So once that objective is completed, it should immediately switch to the second objective, which is use the battery. So let's test that out. So let's hit play. It says find a battery in the upper left. Let's pick up this battery, and once I do, it should say use the battery. There we go. Our new objective now is to use the battery. Now if we do use the battery, nothing will happen because one, we don't need to use the battery since we have full battery, but two, we do not call the objective call from there. So let's go ahead and throw that in. So when we use the battery, that's called in our item blueprints actors inventory, and then BP inventory item flashlight battery. We can open this up, and we have this event use item. If the use item was successful off this true path here, we can get the game state and call objective complete. The objective ID is going to be use battery, so I'm going to copy and paste it. And set next objective immediately, I do not want to check at this time because the next one is investigate the noise when no noise has played. So this time it's not going to do anything or other than remove the current objective. Or actually we need to make it do that. So let's go back to L1 game state. Assuming the objective ID equals the current objective name, we complete the objective. And if we don't set the next objective immediately, then nothing will happen because incomplete objective, we set it to hidden. So let's test this out one more time. So find a battery. Why, there's a battery. Let me go ahead and pick it up. Now it says use the battery. And let's use a bit of our flashlight so we actually can. Let's hit use, and our objective just goes away because we completed use the battery, but no noise has played and nothing's telling us to investigate the noise. So lastly, let's call a new objective when we want to in the world. And I'm going to do it for our jump scare here since it makes a noise. So once we go through this trigger box, but for this we need a new function in our blueprint interface objective call because right now we only have complete objective call. So let's add a new function and we will call this set next objective. And if you want, you can actually create an input for the objective ID to set a specific objective. So call that name, compile and save that. And I don't think we'll need this again, so we can close it. And if you remember in our trigger box, we set it in the level blueprint. So if you go to blueprints, open level blueprint, it's right in here. And it's this first trigger box up here. So we play the sound, we called the jump scare, we delay, we destroy the actor, and we want to get our game state and call that second function we made, set next objective. And let's set the objective ID name to investigate noise, copy, paste, and then in L1 game state, we can call this set next objective function, or implemented I mean, and we will just call set objective. But we want to make sure the objective ID equals to our next objective ID, which is an optional step. You can flip this to have the objective ID be an input for set objective, and then set objective finds goes through our array here and searches for the correct objective to call. It's totally up to you. But for now, we're just going to do it like this. Find current objective, split, and just make sure the ID name is the same as the one that's next. And let's go ahead and test that out. So when we hit play, we can go get this battery. Now it tells us to use the battery. We will hit use. Oh, not successful because our flashlight is full. Let's try it again. Now that goes away. Let's go trigger the jump scare. And now it says investigate the noise. Where's the noise? Oh, it's right there because I forgot to destroy this actor. Anyway, that is how you get started on creating objectives for your game. There's a lot more you can do with it and a lot of different ways to go about it, since many games do it differently, but hopefully that puts you on the right path to getting it perfect for your game. I will see you in the next episode.